Imagine you've just won the biggest award in your industry.
Right.
Or maybe, you've just landed that massive promotion you spent the last 5 years absolutely bleeding for.
The dream scenario.
Exactly. You are standing there, you're holding the proverbial trophy, the crowd is on its feet, everyone is looking at you with just pure admiration.
Yeah.
And your first thought isn't joy.
Oh, wow.
It isn't triumph. It's a sudden, suffocating, almost paralyzing realization that you can never, ever make a mistake again.
That is so heavy.
Right. The
Yeah.
air just gets thin. You realize with this creeping dread that you are now completely trapped by the very thing you spend your entire life trying to build.
It's one of the darkest, most unspoken ironies of the human experience, I think.
I mean, it really is.
Because we spend all this time and energy trying to climb, to achieve, to reach
Yeah.
this mythical summit where we assume we'll finally just be free.
We think success equals autonomy.
Exactly. But when people actually get there, instead of breathing that crisp, clear mountain air, they often feel like they're wearing a psychological straitjacket.
A straitjacket. That's exactly what it feels like. And I think we've all felt a micro version of this, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like you get a little bit of recognition at work or online, and suddenly you feel this immense pressure to maintain whatever image got you that recognition in the first place.
You're suddenly managing a brand instead of just being a person.
Right. You wake up one day and realize the you that everyone is clapping for isn't really you anymore. It's an avatar.
Yeah, a highly curated version of you.
So that's what we are looking at today. We're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating psychological text that breaks down this widespread phenomenon.
It's such a crucial topic.
It is. We are looking at the psychological architecture of why people who constantly meet expectations eventually and almost inevitably lose their true selves.
And we really need to deconstruct the mechanics of that loss because, well, our default cultural assumption about it is just completely wrong.
How so?
Well, we usually associate losing oneself with a lack of character, right? We call it selling out.
Oh, sure. Like the indie band that signs to a major label.
Exactly. We picture this smoke-filled boardroom where someone actively decides to trade their morals for a larger paycheck.
Right, like a cartoon villain.
Yeah. But if you look at the psychological realities of extreme achievement in the source material we're analyzing today, it doesn't happen like that at all.
It's not a conscious betrayal.
Not at all. It's much quieter.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy born entirely of good intentions.
Okay, so what's the actual mission for our deep dive today?
The mission is to completely deconstruct this trap of success. We're going to explore 4 main pillars provided in the text.
Okay, 4 pillars.
Yeah. We're going to look at the desire for approval, the instinct for self-protection, the inevitability of loneliness, and finally, the driving force of the inferiority complex.
Wow, okay, that is a heavy lineup.
It's intense, but it explains so much about human behavior.
Well, to set the tone, there's a brilliant framing from the source that we're going to use as our North Star today.
Yeah, the core quote.
Right. The idea is this. People lose themselves not out of weakness, but because they tried to be too faithful to too many expectations.
See, that reframe changes everything.
It really does. It takes the blame away.
It removes the moral judgment from the equation entirely. It's not weakness. It's an excess of faithfulness.
It's an overcommitment.
Exactly. It's an overcommitment to the people around you. You aren't losing your soul because you're greedy. You're losing it because you are desperately trying to be responsible to the ecosystem you've built.
You're just trying to not let anyone down.
Right. And to understand how that erosion happens, we first have to look at what happens when a person starts succeeding and the invisible compromises they make on the way up.
Invisible is definitely the right word, because as observers, we only ever see the final frame of the movie.
We just see the highlight reel.
Right. We look at a beloved public figure or a confident CEO or a polished artist, and we just assume they emerged fully formed, like they were born that way.
We don't see the shedding.
Exactly. We don't see the thousands of micro adjustments they made over a decade to become that universally palatable.
Because it's an incredibly slow, entirely unconscious process.
How does it actually start, though?
Well, think about how human behavioral conditioning works. You put a piece of work out there,
Yeah.
or maybe you express an opinion in a meeting.
Okay.
You get a little bit of praise for acting a certain way, right? So your brain releases dopamine, and you lean into that behavior.
Positive reinforcement.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe you express a slightly controversial opinion, or you show a rougher edge of your personality, and you get negative feedback.
People push back.
Right. The social friction makes you uncomfortable, so you quietly drop that edge from your repertoire.
You don't even realize you're doing it.
No, you don't. Over years, you are inadvertently carving yourself into a shape designed by the collective expectations of your audience or your industry.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine a jagged, uneven rock.
Okay, I like this.
You find it on the side of a mountain, and it's completely unique. It has sharp edges, weird colors, strange protrusions.
There's nothing else exactly like it.
Right. Now take that rock and toss it into a fast-moving river.
Okay.
The water represents the relentless, continuous flow of public opinion, consumer feedback, and societal pressure.
Just constantly rushing over it.
Constantly. If you pull that rock out 10 years later, the water has ground away every sharp edge.
It's completely smooth.
It has smoothed out every weird bump. It's this perfectly smooth, round, undeniably beautiful river stone, but, well, it now looks exactly like every other pebble on the riverbed.
It lost the specific to become the universal.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And that physical process of erosion is the exact psychological mechanism required to become a number one in any field, according to the text.
It's required.
Required. If you want to reach the absolute apex of an industry, if you want to be the most popular, the most broadly accepted, the most universally loved Gamatic, you have to optimize yourself for the median human being.
You have to appeal to the middle.
Right. You cannot be the most popular anything if 50% of the population finds your sharp edges off-putting or confusing.
That makes total mathematical sense.
You have to lower the barrier to entry for understanding you.
You essentially have to translate your personality into a language that everyone speaks.
Exactly.
And in doing so, you lose all the local slang, all the inside jokes, all the nuance.
You lose your edge. The wider the net you want to cast, the finer the mesh has to be.
That is such a vivid way to put it.
By making your words and actions universally understood, you stop challenging people. You comfort them.
And I guess that's what people want on a mass scale. Comfort.
Right. And the psychological framework we are exploring doesn't actually condemn this. It presents it as a structural inevitability of scale.
You just can't avoid it.
You cannot hold a massive audience without becoming the smooth river stone.
Which explains so much about our cultural obsession with the raw creator.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the indie musician recording in a literal garage, or the startup founder who is still wearing hoodies and hasn't been media trained to death.
They're still messy.
They are messy. They stumble over their words, they say the wrong thing, and yet we are magnetically drawn to them. We cannot look away.
Because it feels real.
It feels like you're actually interacting with a human being, not a corporate PR strategy.
We are drawn to them because their raw self hasn't been scraped away by the river yet.
The rock is still jagged.
Exactly. Their authenticity pierces through the noise of a highly curated world. There is a palpable, almost vibrating energy to someone who is simply existing as themselves without that heavy, suffocating filter of public optimization.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
If we intuitively know that being raw and authentic is what makes a person magnetic, and if the creators themselves know that their unique, jagged edges are what initially built their audience,
Yeah.
then why do they voluntarily jump into the river?
That's the big question.
Why not just stay on the bank and keep your edges? It seems completely irrational to smooth yourself out when the rawness is your actual value proposition.
It seems irrational until you look at the underlying mathematics of scale.
The mathematics of scale.
Yeah. It's not that they want to smooth their edges. It's that the sheer gravity of a massive audience triggers an overwhelming primal instinct for self-protection.
Okay, self-protection.
The source material uses a Japanese concept for this called hoshin.
Hoshin. H-O-S-H-I-N.
Yes, hoshin, which translates to a deep-seated defensiveness or self-preservation. When the scale of your success grows, the psychology of loss fundamentally mutates.
Mutates, meaning the stakes get too high to play loose anymore.
Precisely. Let's look at the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
If you have 100 followers or 100 customers and you make a wild, controversial statement, what is the actual fallout?
Maybe 10 people get angry and leave.
Right. The loss is contained. The human brain can process 10 people being mad at you.
It's uncomfortable, but it's not going to ruin your life.
Exactly. But if you have 10 million followers or you employ 10,000 people, the potential damage of a single misstep is catastrophically magnified.
The blast radius is huge.
You aren't just risking your own ego anymore. You are risking the livelihoods of your team, the viability of your company, the security of your family.
It's the difference between walking on a tightrope drawn in chalk on the sidewalk versus a tightrope suspended across the Grand Canyon.
I love that analogy.
Because when you're on the sidewalk, you can do backflips, you
All
can
right. You
dance.
can mess around.
If you lose your balance, you just step off, dust your knees, and laugh. But as you get more successful, the rope gets raised higher and higher.
And the rope itself hasn't changed.
Right, the physics of walking it haven't changed.
Hmm.
But the context of the fall is now fatal.
Completely fatal.
So what do? You stop dancing.
You have to.
You become rigidly careful. You take agonizingly slow, methodical steps, staring straight down, absolutely terrified of a sudden gust of wind.
That is the exact mechanism of Hoshin. The higher you go, the more people rely on you not to fall, which means you can no longer afford the luxury of playful experimentation.
You literally can't afford it.
And this explains a phenomenon we see all the time in pop culture.
Like what?
How often do people complain, oh, that comedian needs to be so much edgier, they've really mellowed out?
All time.
Or that director's early indie films were brilliant, but now they just make generic, safe blockbusters.
We say it constantly.
Yeah.
And usually with this underlying tone of betrayal, we act like they owe us their past selves. Like, oh, they sold out.
But the text argues that assumption is profoundly unempathetic.
Unempathetic because we aren't seeing the pressure they're under.
Exactly. This perceived mellowing out is rarely a degradation of the artist's character. They haven't suddenly become a worse artist or a coward.
They're just on the Grand Canyon tightrope.
Yes, they have simply lost their freedom. They are carrying a significantly heavier structural burden. They choose words that avoid conflict, and they create art that won't spark a massive backlash, because receiving the collective rage of 1 million people is psychologically destructive.
Our brains just aren't built for that.
The human nervous system is not evolved to handle the disapproval of a stadium-sized mob.
So it's literally an evolutionary survival tactic.
Pure survival.
You put on the armor of being boring or safe because you were standing in front of an army, you hunker down in the hurricane, you don't try to fly a kite.
Exactly. We have to reframe this idea of cowardice as highly rational survival. Optimizing for safety at that altitude is the most logical thing a human brain can do to protect its own sanity.
I understand the survival aspect, I really do. But here is where I think the reality gets incredibly dark.
Yeah, it does get dark.
Because while this self-protection strategy keeps you safe from the external mob, what is it doing to your internal landscape?
It's eroding it.
Think about the process. Day after day, year after year, you are filtering your true thoughts before you speak.
You're second-guessing every impulse.
You are calculating the safety of every single action. If you do that long enough, you don't just fool the public, you fool yourself.
You lose the plot entirely.
You eventually forget what your true, unfiltered thoughts even are. You lose the signal in the noise of your own PR machine.
That is the ultimate tragedy of the optimized self.
It's tragic.
The final cost of extreme self-protection is self-alienation. When you build an avatar to interact with the world interacts with the avatar.
It doesn't interact with you.
No, it doesn't. And this creates a very specific, deeply painful disconnect. It breeds a profound, hidden loneliness.
Because, well, you could be standing in a room of 5,000 people who are chanting your name.
Right.
People who genuinely believe they love you. But deep down, your nervous system knows they don't actually know you.
They know the avatar.
They know the smoothed-out riverstone. They know the mask you painted to survive them, so their love, their praise, their applause, it never actually reaches your core.
It just bounces off the armor.
Exactly. You are entirely visible to the world and completely unseen at the exact same time.
It is a profound state of isolation. You become a ghost haunting your own success.
A ghost haunting your own success. Wow. Okay, if we accept this, if the top of the mountain is this restrictive, terrifying, deeply lonely place where you have to sacrifice your true self just to survive the atmospheric pressure,
Yeah.
it forces a massive question.
Why do it?
Why do it? Why do humans push so relentlessly to get there? What kind of psychological fuel is powerful enough to drive a person to keep climbing into that thinner and thinner air, knowing what it costs?
That is the pivotal question of this entire deep dive.
Because the surface level answers don't cut it?
They don't.
Yeah.
And the actual answer completely shatters the romanticized notions we have about ambition. To understand the drive, we have to examine the dark fuel of growth.
The dark fuel. And we really need to dismantle the myth of the beautiful motivation here.
Oh, absolutely.
Because culturally, we love a beautiful origin story.
We eat it up.
We want to believe that the visionary founder or the gold medal athlete or the groundbreaking artist is driven by pure, radiant passion.
A deep love for humanity.
Right. A joyful desire to express their inner light. We love that narrative.
I want to believe that greatness comes from a place of wholeness. We want to hear the interview where they say, I just wanted to make the world a better place.
But the text says that's mostly a myth.
Mostly, yes.
Hmm.
If you look at the psychological profiles of people who achieve extreme, statistically anomalous results, they rarely run on positive, beautiful motivation.
Yeah, they don't.
No. The engine of extreme greatness is almost always fueled by an intense, burning inferiority complex developed early in life.
Wait, let's unpack that carefully. An inferiority complex.
Yeah.
We are so conditioned by modern pop psychology to view inferiority as a defect.
A bug in the system.
Right. If you have an inferiority complex, you're supposed to go to therapy, heal your inner child, practice self-love, and let go of your grievances. We view it as an emotional illness that needs to be cured.
And we are told it holds us back.
But you're saying that this illness is actually the secret engine of extreme success.
It is an incredibly powerful, counterintuitive reality presented in the source. I am not saying it is healthy, and I'm not saying it leads to happiness.
But it gets results.
It is undeniably effective. Think about the physics of motivation.
Okay.
A person who is perfectly content, who has high self-esteem, who feels entirely validated by their family and friends, that person has zero internal pressure to move.
I have no friction.
Right. They can sit under a tree, watch the clouds, and be perfectly happy. But a person with a deep-seated inferiority complex can never, ever be satisfied with the status quo.
Because the status quo physically hurts them.
Yes.
It's a state of perceived lack.
Exactly. For them, sitting still means sitting in their own inadequacy. If you dig down to the bedrock of their ambition, you won't find joy.
What do you find?
You'll find thoughts like, I want to avenge this humiliation I suffered when I was powerless. Or, I want to brutally dominate the people who overlooked me. Or, I desperately need the world to look at me and validate my existence so I can finally feel real. That is the fuel. It is dark, it is heavy, and it burns incredibly hot.
It's a perpetual motion machine of anxiety.
That's exactly what it is.
Because no matter how many trophies they win or how many millions they make, that internal void cannot be filled by external objects.
The hole is bottomless.
So the engine never runs out of gas. That internal voice just whispers, it's still not enough. They still don't respect you.
So they keep climbing.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying inferiority isn't a defect. It's an unpolished talent.
The talent of perpetual dissatisfaction.
The talent of perpetual dissatisfaction. That is dark, but it makes so much sense.
And this leads us to one of the most complex psychological insights we can draw from this dynamic.
Okay, where are we going next?
It's a framework we can call the 3 faces of deficiency.
3 faces of deficiency. If we really want to understand human behavior at the extremes, we have to realize that 3 specific, seemingly distinct emotions are not actually different at all.
Which emotions?
The desire for approval, the feeling of profound loneliness, and quiet, persistent anger.
Wait, those are the exact same emotion?
According to the text, yes. They are not actually 3 different emotions.
Which sounds completely wild on the surface. Because experientially, being angry feels totally different from being lonely.
Of course it does. They feel different because they are reacting to different environmental triggers.
Okay.
But they emerge from the exact same source code.
Yeah.
They're the exact same emotion wearing different masks depending on the context of the room you're standing in.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Imagine you have a deep, dark well inside of your psyche.
Okay. Well.
That well is a core sense of deficiency. It's a deeply held, unconscious belief that you are lacking something fundamental, that you are not enough.
Right, the inferiority complex.
Now, imagine how that well erupts depending on the weather of your life. Let's say a colleague dismisses your idea in a meeting, or an investor laughs at your pitch.
Friction.
Right. How does the well erupt? It erupts as pure, venomous retaliation. I will crush them. I will build an empire so massive they will be forced to geg me for a job.
In that moment, the deficiency looks like anger.
Right. It's weaponized.
But take that same person with that same internal well. Fast forward 5 years.
Okay.
They built the empire. They crushed the colleague. They are sitting alone in a massive, empty penthouse on a Tuesday night.
The environment has changed?
The environment has changed, so the well erupts differently. It manifests as a hollow ache. Nobody truly understands the burden I carry. I am completely isolated at the top. I just want someone to sit beside me and see me.
Wow. And in that moment, the exact same deficiency looks like loneliness.
Exactly. The root didn't change, just the manifestation.
And then the next morning, that same person wakes up, logs onto social media, and obsessively checks the engagement metrics on their latest post.
Seeking a dopamine hit.
They refresh the feed over and over, craving the validation of strangers telling them they are a genius. In that moment, the deficiency looks like the desire for approval.
It is a brilliant synthesis of the human condition.
It really connects the dots.
The root of all three, the rage, the isolation, the desperate approval seeking, is that one single, unhealed sense of lacking. We are just trying to fill a hole in our psyche.
And depending on who is standing in front of us, that desperate effort to feel whole manifests as ambition, sorrow, or wrath.
They are branches growing from the exact same diseased root.
So let's tie this back to the superstar we started with.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
The person standing on stage holding the award, smiling for the cameras. The person who has smoothed away all their rough edges to become a universally loved river stone.
Right.
The conventional wisdom is that they're experiencing the pinnacle of human fulfillment. But structurally, underneath that highly optimized PR smile, they're actually running on a hyper-concentrated, exhausting cocktail of insecurity, anger, and loneliness.
That is the sobering reality of the summit. The dark fuel doesn't magically turn into light just because you reach the top.
It just burns in a more expensive container.
That is a great way to put it, yes.
Okay, this brings us to a massive turning point in the discussion.
The ultimate twist.
Because if the superstar on stage is fueled by this dark, messy cocktail of deficiency, what about the audience?
The people watching.
Right. What about the 50,000 people screaming their lungs out, crying, looking up at this person as if they are a flawless, idealized god? The fans aren't the ones climbing the mountain. They are just watching. So what is their psychological state?
To understand the audience, we have to completely invert how we think about admiration.
Invert it.
Completely. We have to look at the mirror effect between the idol and the admirer. And this challenges basically everything we assume about fandom, mentorship, and inspiration.
Okay, think about someone you deeply respect. It could be a musician, an author, a historical figure, a business leader. When you look at them and you feel that swell of deep admiration, what do you think you're reacting to?
Well, our default assumption is that we are looking at something we lack.
Right. We think, I am chaotic and disorganized, but this leader is so disciplined, I admire their discipline because I don't have it.
We believe admiration is drawn across a gap of difference.
Opposites attract.
But if you look closely at the psychology of deep resonance in the text, that assumption falls apart completely.
How so?
You cannot truly admire or become deeply infatuated with something that is entirely alien to your internal landscape.
You just wouldn't connect with it.
Exactly. If a person possesses a trait that you have absolutely zero connection to, you might find it intellectually interesting, but it won't move you to tears.
It won't make you obsess over them.
It won't turn you into a fanatic.
It's like acoustic resonance. If you have a tuning fork calibrated to an A note and you strike a C note right next to it, the A fork does absolutely nothing.
It doesn't care.
It just sits there. It only vibrates. It only sings when another A note is played in the room.
That's a perfect analogy.
You only vibrate to the frequency of that specific creator, or you only feel deeply inspired by that specific leader because you share their exact same frequency deep down in your own psyche. You intuitively feel, even if you can't articulate it, this person is singing my song. This is about me.
That is the secret architecture of admiration. You are reacting to something that already exists inside you, but perhaps just hasn't taken a mature shape yet.
It's a latent.
Right. The idol is simply a highly visible, externalized manifestation of your own latent potential, or more often, your own hidden emotional state.
And this leads to a profound structural observation about the relationship between the successful figure and the fan.
Yes, because we view it as a one-way street, a dynamic of giver and receiver.
The idol provides the art or the leadership, and the fan receives it and offers gratitude.
But this perceived distance is an illusion.
An illusion? How so?
Because if we accept the tuning fork analogy, if we only connect with what is already inside us, then the intense respect, the fanaticism, the tears a fan cries at a concert, those emotions actually conceal the fan's own inferiority complex, their own desperate desire for approval, their own quiet anger at the world.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's connect the dots here, because this is the absolute core of the paradox.
It's mind-blowing.
We established that the idol got to the stage by using the dark fuel of an inferiority complex. They felt small, they got angry, they needed the world to validate them, so they sacrificed their true selves to achieve greatness.
Yes.
And now, the fan in the crowd who is screaming and crying is resonating so deeply with that idol because the fan is currently suffering from that exact same sense of smallness, anger, and need for validation.
Exactly. They are structurally identical.
That is incredible.
The emotion the successful person felt in their past, the wound that drove them to climb the mountain, is the exact same wound the fan is carrying right now in the present.
So what's the difference between them?
The only difference is execution. The idol managed to convert their dark fuel into a highly optimized public product. The fan is still just sitting with the raw material, burning with it in the dark.
The irony of that is staggering. Picture a massive stadium.
Okay.
On stage, you have one person driven by profound loneliness and a desperate need for approval,
Yep.
and they're being worshipped by 50,000 people who are driven by profound loneliness and a desperate need for approval. They are all the exact same.
It's a mirror hall.
But there is this massive invisible wall built between them. The stage, the lights, the security guards pretending they are different species.
And we actively maintain that wall because it protects our egos.
How does it protect us?
We wrap our raw, messy, uncomfortable feelings in polite, socially acceptable language. We use words like respect, admiration, and fandom.
It sounds better.
Think about how much easier it is for a person to say, I am a devoted, lifelong fan of this brilliant artist, than it is to look in the mirror and admit, I am fiercely drawn to this person because they successfully monetized the exact same flavor of self-loathing that I am currently suffering from.
Wow, fandom is a shield.
It is a psychological defense mechanism.
It conveniently blinds us to the fact that when we stare at our heroes, we are just staring into a mirror.
Fandom, or intense professional admiration, is ultimately a disguised question we are asking ourselves.
What's the question?
When we obsess over an idol, we are unconsciously looking at their trajectory and asking if they could take this broken, deficient feeling, if they could take this exact wound that I have and turn it into something beautiful and successful and universally loved, can I do it too?
Is there hope for my jagged edges?
Exactly. We aren't actually worshiping them at all. We are desperately looking for a roadmap for our own salvation.
That completely flips the script on what it means to look up to a mentor or what it means to be a fan.
It changes everything.
It's not about them. It has never been about them. It is entirely, 100% about you and your relationship with your own deficiency.
Which I think is the perfect place to start synthesizing this massive psychological journey we've just been on.
It really is a sweeping look at the human condition.
So much ground covered.
Let's recap. We started by looking at the suffocating nature of success and how the gradual, well-intentioned optimization of the self leads to this tragic erosion of who we really are.
The jagged rock being tumbled in the river until it's just another smooth pebble.
Right. Then we explored the terrifying gravity of scale, how the mathematics of a massive audience forces people into Hushin.
That highly rational but deeply isolating instinct for self-protection, walking the tightrope across the canyon.
From there, we dug into the dark fuel of growth. We dismantled the myth of the beautiful motivation and recognized that profound achievements are rarely born from wholeness.
They are powered by the raw, unpolished talent of an inferiority complex.
And we saw how the three faces of deficiency, anger, loneliness, and the desire for approval are merely different masks worn by the same internal void.
And finally, we uncovered the mirror effect. The realization that the people we admire from afar are not flawless gods, but simply reflections of our own hidden deficiencies.
Our intense admiration is just a disguised recognition of our shared wounds, the tuning forks singing the same note of lack.
And as we bring all of this together, it is vital to offer a reframe.
Because it sounds pretty bleak if we stop there.
Right. Because we've spent the last hour dissecting some incredibly heavy psychological realities. Loneliness, self-alienation, deep-seated anger, the illusion of connection.
It's a lot.
It's very easy to look at this framework and feel a sense of despair. But the ultimate takeaway from the source text is not a condemnation.
It's not a doom and gloom diagnosis.
No, this isn't a diagnosis of a disease that means humanity is broken.
Right. It's not saying success is evil and everyone is secretly miserable.
Exactly. Whether you are the successful leader currently losing yourself to the crushing weight of expectations, or you are the hungry upstart fiercely driven by an unhealed inferiority complex, or you are the devoted fan projecting your own unfulfilled needs onto a celebrity, you need to know that this isn't a story about special or broken people.
It's just human nature.
This is simply the natural, inevitable emotional landscape of being a human being navigating a complex society. It is the physics of human interaction.
And there is so much power in just naming the physics. It reframes the negative.
How so?
Well, when you can accurately identify the mechanics of your struggle, you gain agency over it.
You're not just flailing in the dark anymore.
Right. If you're feeling suffocated at work or in your creative life right now, you can stop and ask yourself a structural question.
What question?
Am I losing myself because of external pressure from others demanding I smooth my edges in the river? Or am I losing myself because of my own internal fear, my hashin, my instinct to rigidly protect what I've gained on the tightrope?
Identifying the source of the anxiety.
Just knowing the difference between the river water and the wind in the canyon changes how you handle the anxiety.
Knowledge is the prerequisite for agency. And the most empowering takeaway from all of this is a radical acceptance of your own dark fuel.
Acceptance, not elimination.
Exactly. Your inferiority complex, your deep-seated loneliness, your quiet anger at being overlooked, these are not shameful defects you need to hide or immediately cure.
They aren't bugs.
They are your essence. They are the highly combustible raw material of your potential. They are the beautiful, jagged edges of the rock before it hits the river.
So what's the goal then?
The goal of life isn't to pretend you don't have these wounds. The goal is to understand them, to harness them,
Yeah.
and to consciously decide exactly how much of them you are willing to let the river wash away.
To consciously choose your edges. I love that. And that leaves me with a final provocative thought.
Let's hear it.
Something I've been turning over in my head ever since we started preparing for this deep dive, and something I want to leave you, the listener, to explore on your own.
Okay.
We just spent this entire time establishing that our deepest, most passionate connections to the people we admire are fundamentally based on shared feelings of inadequacy.
The tuning forks vibrating on the frequency of a shared wound.
Fandom as a mirror for our own lack. But, well, what happens to that admiration if you actually manage to heal?
Oh, wow.
If you do the incredibly hard psychological work, if you process your inferiority complex, if you integrate your shadow, and you finally truly feel enough internally, what happens to the mirror?
Does the resonance stop?
Exactly. Do your idols suddenly lose their magic? If the internal gap is closed, does the tuning fork go silent? Is the ultimate price of inner peace the loss of our heroes?
That is a fascinating question.
It's a heavy question to carry, but a necessary one if we want to truly understand what's driving us forward. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a long look in the mirror today and maybe take a closer look at those rough edges you might be unconsciously polishing away. They might just be the most valuable thing you own.